Thanks very much, Tuhi, and thanks very much for the pleasure to be here. I'm very excited to talk about regulatory trends in Switzerland concerning virtual asset service providers. There's actually a lot to talk about because there's quite some development in Switzerland. First, a few words about myself and JB. JB was founded in 2017. It's still kind of a startup. We're a team of 6 people, all experts in regulatory questions in the DLT area, in particular in risk and compliance. Actually, we're servicing mainly virtual asset service providers in Switzerland. Up to now, we serviced and service about more than 35 VASPs here in Switzerland. I also got the chance to build up the compliance department of the Signum crypto bank in Switzerland. And I held lectures at the University of Applied Science in Zurich about the topic compliance with cryptocurrencies and in the DLT space. So what is the, Juhi?
Yeah, go on, yeah.
Sorry, you said something. Shall I talk more about myself or?
No, I mean, yeah, please, talk about the general situation of what is going on in Switzerland in terms of regulatory environment.
Okay, I don't need to mention that I'm a lawyer in Switzerland, stuff like that. That's not so interesting for people, maybe. Okay. So what is the regulatory situation in Switzerland if it comes to virtual assets? First, I would like to talk about the general approach of Swiss legislation in order to understand in which direction we're going. So firstly, the Swiss government is supporting fintech and DLT business quite intensively, which is a very good situation for all of us here. Even the General Council of Switzerland went to Zug, to the Crypto Valley, to talk to the local people and all these startups and companies that were developed in this area to better understand what the needs are. But on the other hand, of course, the government is also a little bit worried about the downside and the risks of this new technology. The approach in Switzerland is fintech and DLT shall be regulated. We want to have a regulated economy in order to mitigate those risks, as just mentioned. This means usually virtual asset service providers are under the Anti-Money Laundering Act and usually need a license. We will see this in more detail after all. There is the Swiss Financial Supervisory Authority, FINMA, that is supervising fintech and DLT companies as well, either directly or indirectly. So we decided in Switzerland that we don't want to create a new law or a new act that is covering DLT business, but just amend or adjust the current legislation in Switzerland with some specific amendments that help us to meet these special elements of this new technology here. I brought a slide concerning the key elements here. We have a very, very great timing because February 1st this year, these adjustments in our legislation came into force. So we just changed a few articles in order to be able to develop DLT business further. The key figures, just to mention, I don't want to bore you with any details about Swiss legislation, but we said a ledger entry replaces the sometimes required written form with your physical signature. That makes a lot of sense because now transfer of assets on the ledger is legally binding. This is an absolute precondition to work with blockchain technology. And there is a new category called register rights. This is a little bit technical, that helps us to categorize these kind of rights that you get through the smart contract and provides to your wallet. And we amended the Anti-Money Laundering Act so that we are able to mitigate the money laundering risks coming along with this new technology. This is for us the basis of tokenization of assets. It's actually the regulatory starting point of tokenization of assets, which means security and asset token here in Switzerland. There is another add-on that we talk about it later. If it comes to licensing, how are DLT companies set up in Switzerland? If they're regulated, most of them require a license. And the license is the entry gate to the financial market here. There are two different kind of categories of licensing. One is a so-called membership at the self-regulatory organization. The most popular here is located in Zug in the Crypto Valley as well. It's called WQF. This is designed for simple cases. This is a private association, actually, these self-regulatory organizations, but they're supervised and approved by the Financial Market Authority, FINMA. So it's not really, they're not really free in what they're doing. They have their own, they issue their own regulations, but to be honest, it's more or less copy-paste of what is also valid for banks or other financial intermediaries that have a direct license with FINMA. These so-called simple cases are, for instance, a crypto exchange, fiat to crypto or crypto to crypto, also debt collectors. For instance, a membership with a self-regulatory organization is sufficient. Or if you run an ICO with a payment token. It's not valid for security token. This is a different kind of area because there are quite intense rules concerning investor protection, and therefore it needs a different license. So how is the process of becoming a member at such a self-regulatory organization? The first thing we shall do is to shape your business case. The way that we want to avoid, first of all, an SRO membership shall be sufficient. That's the first point. And the second is we want to avoid high regulatory costs in the future for your business. So reduce the business case as much as possible. Maybe it's not good to serve all client groups worldwide. Maybe you can limit your business so that it is very efficient if it comes to compliance tasks in the future. This is the first entry gate where we help our customers, the virtual asset service providers, to develop their business. The second step then is set up your company here in Switzerland and have a team. It is required that at least one person in Switzerland is responsible for the business. You cannot apply if everyone is abroad or you're a foreign company. So most of the people set up a company here and establish a very small team, of course, at the beginning, because these companies are usually startups. Then define who's going to be responsible for your anti-money laundering, who is going to be your AML officer, and define your AML procedures and directive. So this is a part where JB is supporting as well. We put everything together and we send the application to the SRO. Usually we need about 1 month to establish all documents, and because there are some additional requirements that need to be fulfilled, but 1 month is sufficient. WQF itself, the CEO committed himself towards me that he said it takes 3 to 5 weeks to get an approval or a denial as a WQF member. But in reality, let's count in 2 months. This is according to our experience. So all in all, the whole process will take about 3 months, and the costs will be approximately 15,000 Swiss francs, which I find a very, very efficient way of becoming a financial intermediary, a regulated financial intermediary in Switzerland, also coming along with a great reputation and an entry gate or an entry ticket to the financial market.
I think that's a very good news about Switzerland having the SRO. It's much easier compared to other European countries, actually. Yeah, to doing this kind of crypto business.
Yes. This way, this way to become a Swiss financial intermediary is very lean and efficient compared to other jurisdictions, and very transparent in addition. What you cannot do with the VQF membership is accept assets from the public, because in order to do that business, you require a banking license, and exchange of security token is not possible. We will talk about the licensing requirement concerning security token in a minute. Also, acting as an asset manager needs an additional licensing and membership because of investor and customer protection regulation. But after 3 months, you will be ready to start your business. There is another license category that was implemented 1st of January 2019, because the Swiss government came to the conclusion that there must be more room for fintech startups where they can, on a lower level, start their business. So accepting assets from the public is allowed if you have a fintech license provided by FINMA, up to 100 million Swiss francs, so you're limited. It's a so-called banking license light. You can open a bank account with the Swiss National Bank, so you're independent from other banks. Your own capital requirement is rather low compared to a standard bank. But at the time, there are just 2 licenses issued in Switzerland, one for Yapil and one for SRO Liechtenstein, who is a customer of ours. I don't know how many that are actually in the process and applied for such a license, but I assume there are quite a few. Duration here is longer. It takes 3 to 9 months, I would say. Well, 3 is maybe too short, 6 to 9, and the costs are respectively higher. Of course, you can apply as a bank or a securities dealer. If you're a securities dealer in Switzerland, that includes the exchange of security token as well. So you can accept assets from the public, you can exchange security token, you can open a bank account with the Swiss National Bank, you can do asset management, but the capital requirement is quite high, which means at least you need to bring 10 million Swiss francs. Usually FINMA is asking for more, so let's say 15 to 20. There are 2 banks actually licensed in the crypto space in Switzerland, which is SEBA Bank and Signal Bank, where we had the chance to build up the compliance department. More are coming. Bitcoin Swiss, for instance, applied for a banking license. There are other projects that are going in that direction. Duration, I would say at least 12 months to get the banking license in Switzerland. But if you want to become a DLT security exchange, that includes, by the way, also payment token and utility token, that for this exchange, a VQF or SRO membership is sufficient. But if you want to become a security token exchange, you're going to have an additional chance in the future, which is an additional license from FINMA, valid as of 1st of August 2021. Which is quite soon. So you have the chance to exchange security token, also provide storage of security token, and the capital requirement is very limited. I cannot tell you here how long it will take to get that license, because there is no experience with this license type, and the costs are a little bit unclear to me, but for sure, this is a very great chance to become a fully fledged, regulated token exchange in Switzerland. So the overall picture of the DLT business in Switzerland at the time, it's very international driven. So many companies from abroad build up their company here in Switzerland. We're servicing customers from South Africa, from Portugal, from China, also from the US, from Russia, because Switzerland is very crypto-friendly jurisdiction, and this will develop in that way further on. There are mainly startups here that are in the crypto valley, but also in Zurich and around. There are, in addition, a few established players, such as the Ethereum Foundation, the Tezos Foundation here in Zug. the regulator, in particular FINMA, is very supportive. You can even approach them and ask them, what do you think about my token? So you can ask for a so-called non-action letter. It takes about 2 months. It costs about 5,000 francs, but FINMA will give you feedback and says, if you design the token that way, we're fine with it. So this creates a lot of security for your business, and it's super, super helpful if you're developing in this new technology field. There's quite a great awareness of the Swiss society if it comes to cryptocurrencies. However, not everyone is invested, to be honest, but most of the people are observing what's going on in this space. There's a very positive mindset toward the DLT and crypto business. Of course, there are a few people that are quite cautious if it comes to the risk of money laundering or sanction violation, but this is addressed by the government. And also authorities and the media are rather positive. Just to give you a regulatory outlook, how it will develop or shall develop here in Switzerland if it comes to virtual asset service provider. We will continue on our path as a crypto-friendly nation and economy. We are committed to use the changes of DLT as well as mitigate its risk. This discussion will continue, how to deal with the negative side of this, of the token economy. However, this is mainly our business where we're in, to find the most efficient solutions compliance-wise, that we are compliant, and at the other hand, also can develop our business. So what is the goal? We want to build up or continue building up in Switzerland a regulated and legal token economy that is also very prospering in this regard. So that's it in a nutshell. Thanks very much. Here are my contact details. Would be happy to get in touch with you. Also to connect on LinkedIn if you have any questions concerning regulatory development in Switzerland, licensing, how to structure your business, how to build up a business in Switzerland, the financial intermediary, how to become a VASP in Switzerland. Just approach me. And now I'm open for your questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you. It was very comprehensive. That was, I think that you actually really pinpointed that the questions, probably this, Korean startups, probably, these fintech companies are curious about how to practically do the business in Switzerland if they want to, in terms of costs, in terms of their durations and so on. And yeah, I have a questions. First of all, about the security token. I understand this new DLT law is actually, I mean, DLT is the technology, but then it's actually talking about the security token. I mean, not only about, something, the security tokens can really vary, can be shares and can be bonds and can be real estate. So, yeah, I mean, can you talk a little bit about this security tokens that related to this DLT law? What you can do with this law of this DLT law?
Okay, thanks for that question, Chui. I see security token as the next wave in the DLT area. We've seen quite many payment tokens around, we've seen quite many utility tokens around, and they did perform very well. But however, if you want to have a real value that is the basis of your token, it represents a value, also makes transfer of such values easier, we will end up with security token. And before February here in Switzerland, you were able to transfer security token on the blockchain. It was possible, but it was legally not 100% binding. It was some insecurity that now is solved with a change of the legislation. So that's very helpful. You can transfer a security token from one person to the other, and it's like you conclude a contract on a written paper. So it's equivalent. And in addition, we will solve the issue that exchanging security token requires, because of investor protection, a certain licensing here. At the time, it's a securities dealer license that is quite difficult and burdensome to get from FINMA. There are a few projects that applied for a securities dealer license. One is the SDX, the other one is LICA, for instance, but they are now waiting for an extremely long period of time. And the regulator realized this is not the best way how to address it. Therefore, we will issue or offer this new DLT exchange license as of 1st of August. So we're very much looking forward to that.
So I understand this DLT law is more talking about the venue, right? Exchange. But then for example, I'm a Korean company. I want to set a company in order to do the SRO, like ICO. But then receiving the security token. I mean, the exchanging it can be another issue. But then I like to sell my raise the capital through the issuing these security tokens. So then what is required?
So generally, if you want to issue just a security token, a membership with an SRO is sufficient, but usually you want to work with your security token that you issue. So then we come close to the DLT exchange license. There are other legal aspects to bear in mind. If you issue a security token, you also have to provide a prospectus in Switzerland for your buyers that are domiciled in Switzerland. But also if you're offering, and usually in the DLT area, you're offering your token worldwide, you have to provide prospectus to those people. So in this situation, which is a little bit less compliance driven, but legal driven, there are additional legal questions to clarify. This is not a speciality in Switzerland. This is a global requirement actually. And also with regards to customers domiciled in the US, we have to be very cautious because the US is running its own regime concerning security token at the time. This is something that we just have to keep in mind. But otherwise, issuing a security token is fine. Exchanging requires a specific license.
Good. Yeah, another question. There are a lot of growing interest and hype about DeFi. These DeFi tokens are really the price is getting really crazy nowadays. Polkadot and these kind of tokens. Is there any regulation in Switzerland about issuing this kind of token or regarding this?
So thanks. The Financial Market Authority, FINMA, in Switzerland distinguished just between three different kind of token: utility token, payment token, and asset token, or security token. The definition is not 100% clear. And so we only know these three kind of categories. So the question, and this is a big question usually, that is more for the lawyers here in the Crypto Valley that are specialized in this topic. What kind of token classification is the token you want to issue? Because that drives regulation afterwards.
I see. Okay, but then if you want to do the business like just using Bitcoin, give you quite some big interest if you're staking some coins, then also some kind of regulation or law will apply.
So Swiss legislation is technology neutral. So we say we don't mind which kind of technology you're using. This law is applicable. So this is something we have to address case by case. So it really depends on the detail of your business case. And this is a service that JB is offering that we go through together. Maybe we include a lawyer in addition, so that we can shape your business case the way that is as efficient and as possible. Usually it's recommended to start with a lean business case so that you can enter the market with a basic setup and then enlarge your services.
So from my understanding from your presentation, if it's a crypto business, you would just need a SRO, I mean, for a simple understanding, yeah?
Yes, we'll talk about payment and utility token exchange.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, without
not security. That's separate.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which makes it very simple to start in the Swiss financial market with your business case. Most of our customers actually start with a simple crypto exchange and say, okay, I first want to gain customer to build up my community and then enlarge my services.
So in your presentation, I saw for SRO, I mean, you can build up your crypto exchange, but then you cannot actually receive asset from public, right?
Yes.
But does it contradictory, or I mean, what it means?
That's a good question that I have to answer quite often. First of all, there is the so-called Sandbox that the Swiss regulator implemented that you're allowed, to be very precise here, to allow accepting assets from the public up to 1 million, but that usually doesn't help a lot in your business case. But you're also allowed to hold assets from the public for 60 days, and this time period is designed for performing the exchange, which means if I want to buy a Bitcoin with you, Juhi, I can transfer you assets, so you accept assets from the public legally, and you have time to exchange my money, it could be fiat, Swiss francs, US dollar, against Bitcoin, and then send me back the Bitcoin. What you cannot do is to hold the Bitcoin on your wallet. So you have to transfer it to mine. You can provide a wallet, for instance. This is the easiest way, that you say, okay, Jürg, this is your wallet. I don't have access, I don't have the private key. I hand everything over to you. So it's in your possession. And in this situation, it's not accepting assets from the public.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's clear. Yeah, so you cannot actually keep it in your account. The maximum period will be 60 days, but then as long as you convert into the crypto asset, for example, and then send it back to them, that's fine, yeah?
Usually customers in this regard are working together with a bank for the fiat, or also you can work together with a Fintech license company here in Switzerland that then is holding the fiat assets in favor of your customers.
Good. Yeah, another question. Is there, I mean, you as a compliance company, I guess you get a lot of curious. And how is the ICO market generally in Switzerland? Is it booming again, or is it less ICO, or what kind of business are booming right nowadays?
That's a very good question that I ask myself as well. There was the ICO boom in 2016, 17, 18. That's completely gone because it caused a lot of regulatory insecurities. In the meantime, our regulator did its homework and established a framework that allows us, gives us clarity and allows us to move within in this area. So slightly the ICO market is coming back again. But there are less ICOs at the time than there were in these booming years, but they're of a way, way better quality. They're regulated and they're properly financed, and they have a proper setup here in Switzerland. So it's actually very pleasant development from my perspective. We have a few clients now asking for an ICO, so we help them to organize, to fulfill the compliance regulation. I just had a call yesterday with the SRO VQF talking about it. You are obliged to become a VQF member for the period of your ICO. You're going to be supervised. We can implement it in a very, very lean way so that we keep the costs as low as possible. There's also a KYC free threshold that you don't need to perform full compliance requirements, and depends on your business case and your customer groups. But yeah, I see a trend that ICOs are coming back here in Switzerland as well.
Great. Yeah, that'll be my last question. I get these questions actually practically from Korean startup founders. I mean, they invest a lot of money in Switzerland to set up and all this process. Then they like to get the money back after all this, right? And when they have profits, and then they are concerned if it's legally possible, how they could take the money back to their country and they enjoy the profit. And I mean, that's not the regulatory questions, but then that's practically a lot of people are questions.
I fully understand. I fully understand. This, of course, is a very important question. I'm not a specialist in this area, but as far as I'm informed, there are no money transfer restrictions between Switzerland and South Korea. So from Swiss side, you're completely free, of course, within the rules of the Code of Obligation, that you can pay yourself a dividend, for instance, and wherever you're located, and transfer this dividend to your private account.
So from sending the money back to your home country, from Swiss side, no issue. We can take the dividend as a dividend. There
are sanctioned countries you shouldn't send money to, but South Korea is, of course, not one of them. So, and there's very limited amount of countries that are sanctioned, actually.